Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. So my week was kind of annoying, to say the least. You ever have one of those weeks where it's just everything is just irritating and nothing is going right? And just one of those times where you just say, how could this week possibly get any worse? And as soon as you say that, the universe answers you and it's like, hold on, let me hook you up with that right now. Yeah, so it was basically one of those kinds of weeks. I had to do a lot of adult things that are super fun, like dealing with the renewal of my passport and running from the courthouse to the post office. And I basically did a lot of driving around and parking and paying for parking fees and doing all this other stuff and filling out paperwork that I didn't really need to do because the post office was giving me this information and the courthouse was giving me that information and the opposite things of each other. And meanwhile, I'm just over here like, can I just get my passport? And then on top of that, we had this big, huge snowstorm. So then 2 feet of snow, of course, then derails the entire metropolitan area, and then people aren't at work, and people aren't answering phones or emails, and everything gets jammed up and behind. Between all that, we have my favorite obsession of all, March Madness. Anyway, it's just been one of those weeks where you don't really have a whole lot of motivation to do anything by the time you get to the end of it. So when I finally was able to drag myself up out of bed and make myself some coffee and have some breakfast, I was just going online and stalking people. And I came across an article on MSN.com and what could go wrong with a $1 million wedding? Check out the $1 million lawsuit. Haha, let me tell you what could go wrong with a $1 million wedding. So if you haven't checked the article, I'll link it in the bottom so you can read the entire thing. It's long. Anyway, the long and short of it is this couple hired a wedding planner to put together their daughter's wedding, and they have 3 children, and this is the first of 3 that is getting married. Anyway, so they're going to spend a ton of money, obviously. And then they connected with a wedding planner, who of course is named in the article, and I'm scrolling down thinking like, okay, who is it? And then holy shit, you guys, it's Mindy Weiss. So let's just stop for a second and talk about how Mindy Weiss is basically a legend. She is definitely one of the event designers and planners that I've always looked up to. Oh, but if you watch The Bachelor, then you totally are familiar with her work because she does all of those weddings. So that's the level of amazing we're talking about. So I was super surprised to see her name in this lawsuit. Anyway, it turns out that the crux of this whole issue is that Mindy is actually suing the couple for a bunch of unpaid fees and expenses, things that she had to pay out of her pocket. And I will be the first to say I don't know anything more than what this article is telling me, but it doesn't surprise me to see an article like this, especially when it comes down to money with your wedding. Now, I have said this 100 times before, and I'm going to say it again. You have to figure out your budget. Please figure out your budget. This is like my 18th PSA about this. Yet, think. Okay? The budget is super important to your entire wedding. If you don't know what your budget is, then you shouldn't be planning anything. Please figure out your budget. So the quotes that are in this article are all from the parents, and there's one quote that stood out to me was, I don't know if this is the husband or the wife that said this. They said, I think there are people who prey on people's love for their children. They prey on their vanity. They try to take advantage of it. And as soon as I read that, I was just a little offended, and more like a lot offended, but you know, I was offended because I feel that the media in general tries to make the wedding industry look like predators out to get these couples and empty their wallets and drain them of every cent that they have. They really make the wedding industry people, whether it's a planner or a florist or a photographer or a DJ or whomever, I'm sorry, but the media does not put us in a good light. They'll give you all these wedding planning tips, and then what do? They'll sit there and say, the wedding industry is coming to steal all of your money. Like, dude, it's not that serious. Why are you painting us out to be the villains? The wedding industry is coming to steal all of your money. But even though, like, I'm so used to seeing the media paint us all in a really bad light where we are just not interested in the couple and we're not interested in about their wedding, we're only interested in getting a paycheck. The bottom line is I could plan anything. Okay, I could plan pharmaceutical holiday parties. My office is in New Jersey. It is literally the drug capital of the world. But I don't want to plan that stuff. You know why? Because it's boring. It's so boring. I also like weddings. I like the concept of 2 people finding each other and celebrating the fact that they found each other. So to read a quote like that from somebody, it's really hurtful, and I'm sure that he legitimately feels that way, that he was taken advantage of, but there's no way that that's even remotely true, because every planner could be in anything else, and every DJ, photographer, and every other vendor, they could be in anything else. They could just be in, you know, corporate planning. They don't have to do social anything. But not only are we talking about social planning, we're talking about wedding planning. So there is an emotional tie to that kind of stuff. And for every media outlet that's saying that there isn't and that, you know, we're the bad guys, no, oh my God. Okay, but whatever, that's a completely different topic. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about today, as I completely go off in tangent land, like, hello, come back. But what I want to talk about in the article is the money aspect. The wedding industry is coming to steal all of your money. Because that's what it's about, and money is a very important thing to talk about when planning a wedding. And we're not going to sit here and judge the type of wedding that it is. I know that, you know, $1 million for a wedding seems absolutely ridiculous to many of you, but people will spend what they want to spend on their wedding, and it's their money. Let them spend it however they want, okay? But here's the thing, even somebody that can afford $1 million wedding needs to figure out their budget. So in this part of the article it says, things came to a head when, after nearly 10 months of planning and just 6 weeks before the wedding, Mindy Weiss finally provided a detailed proposal that came in at $3 million. Ah, surprise, a $3 million bill! The father of the bride was stunned and refused to pay some charges that he considered to be wildly inflated. I'm not paying that! Because Weiss had waited so long to submit her plan, he says it was too late to hire other vendors. And then later on in the article, like, scroll down, he says, that's not what I wanted to pay. He expected to spend in the neighborhood of $1 million and was waiting to see her proposal before discussing final numbers. What? Why are you waiting to discuss the final numbers? I mean, but think about it logically. This doesn't make any sense. How are you gonna sit there and plan a wedding and talk about everything that you want and then never talk about the numbers? And then you get hit with this bill and it's like, whoa! I am so tired of hearing this being an issue. So if you don't figure out your numbers up front, then you're gonna sit here and like just be like, make it rain, make it rain, make it rain, make it rain, and then you're gonna wind up and you're gonna hit a wall and there's gonna be a drought, no more raining. And then you're gonna have to sit and nitpick and figure out like where you're gonna spend and what you're gonna do, and you're just gonna stress yourself out. Figure out what your entire budget is. It's one number. One, it's just a simple number, just one number, okay? One, you can do that, right? Right? How is any planner supposed to know what you can afford if you don't tell them? Why is this always a secret? You know what I'm saying? So I get the whole money talk is completely uncomfortable. Believe me, I get that. Whatever. But I sit here and I read these articles, and discussing the final numbers seems to be the last thing that these people were doing. Why? I truly can't imagine what's going through somebody's mind that doesn't figure out their budget in the beginning of the planning process. What are you just sitting there saying like, let me just hope and pray and close my eyes and cross my fingers that it's actually going to be within the budget that I actually have, that I'm not telling anybody because it's a big huge secret and she should be able to read my mind. Go. What? If you have a number in your head, you have to communicate that. Budget first, everything else later. The numbers needed to be discussed up front. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is like, yeah, this can happen to you. You don't have to have $1 million budget for this to happen to you. You could have a $10,000 budget. And this could happen to you. The wedding industry is coming to steal all of your money. So just disclose the budget. Just disclose the budget. What's your number? And I think one of my favorite parts of the article is when the parents say that they would never have allowed a business deal to continue for months with the same misgivings. But it was their first wedding and emotions got the better of them. Yeah. And that, at the end of the day, is what this is. It's a business deal. You're dealing with numbers. You can let the emotion get the better of you when you are giving your daughter away or walking her down the aisle. There are plenty of times to let your emotion get the better of you during the wedding planning process and at the actual wedding. But when you're dealing with the numbers and the business part of this transaction, that is not when you need to let the emotion get the better of you. You can't sit there and stay silent and not know what the numbers are going to be until the end. I mean, it says in the article that by the time that they found out, it was too late to get any new vendors. Figure out your budget before you do anything in wedding planning. As uncomfortable as it is to deal with the numbers up front, it is way more uncomfortable to deal with them along the way. That is not a path you want to walk down. It's literally like walking through a minefield. So know your numbers. Just go and figure those out. Then start the planning process. That's all you have to do. Numbers. First thing, numbers. Then you're good. Then go plan. Have a good time. Anyway guys, thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, or if you're watching this on a weekday, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm going to have another cup of coffee and go back to watching March Madness, and hopefully won't need to set my brackets on fire. Don't forget to stalk me on all of my social media channels, which are linked below, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you guys again soon. Don't forget, budget first, everything else later. In that order. The end.